Huge news today, everyone. AirDrop finally works from Android to iPhone. That's right, you can now AirDrop a file from your Android phone to an iPhone without having to jump through any hoops, without needing to root, without needing a third-party app. It just works natively through Quick Share, just like you would share something from an Android phone to another Android phone, or an Android phone to a Windows laptop, or whatever. It all works the same. I'm going to run through how this works, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how this might be problematic, how this might not last, and how this is another example of Google pushing Apple to be better than it would be on its own. So before I get into all that, let me show you that this works. So there is one minor caveat that you have to do, that you have to have a prerequisite for both phones, and that's the Pixel 10 Pro and the iPhone 17 Pro. So first, we have to make sure that that I can share from this phone to anyone, and that the iPhone can accept things from anyone. So let's run through those steps now. So what I'm going to do is, this is the I just took this selfie. I'm going to share this to the iPhone wirelessly. But before we do that, I'm going to open up the Quick Share settings. So the typical Quick Share settings. I'm going to go to Who Can Share With You and change that so that it says everyone for 10 minutes. So now this can share with anyone, doesn't matter if they're a contact of mine or not. I'm going to go on the iPhone, go into the silly control center thing here, and then go to the AirDrop settings and make sure that also says everyone for 10 minutes. So now you can see that the AirDrop thing says that it can share with everyone. So those are the only things you need to do on each device. And obviously it only lasts for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, each one's going to go back to the way it normally was. So in that 10-minute window, I can now AirDrop something from my Pixel 10. So let's go back to my selfie. So here we go. There's the photo that I'm going to send to the iPhone. I'm going to go to Quick Share. And then you see the Quick Share page just like usual. But look at that at the bottom right there, Scott's iPhone. So I'm going to go ahead and tap that. It's going to do its little loading, thing. And then, oh, what is that? A little alert just appeared on my iPhone. Going to hit accept. It's going to do its thing up in the dynamic island there. And then boom, there it is. One selfie transferred from my Pixel 10 Pro to my iPhone. No hoops, no third-party apps, no rooting, nothing. Just using the Quick Share on this and the AirDrop on that. Pretty incredible, huh? So yeah, I just proved it can happen. It works. So what actually happened here? What is actually going on? So let me jump over to the laptop here. So this is an article that Michelle Rahman wrote for Android Authority about this. And as you can see, it says Google made Quick Share compatible with AirDrop without Apple's help. So what does that mean? So if you'll remember a few years back, Google started to put heavy pressure onto Apple about the lack of interoperability between iPhones and Android phones for text messages. People who don't live in the United States don't really care about this because they use WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal and all these other apps. But here in the United States, iPhone users almost all exclusively use iMessage. So RCS support between iPhones and Android phones didn't exist. And so Google said, screw this, we're going to push Apple to adopt this. And eventually it worked. Now iPhones do support RCS. So a lot of features that didn't work before from iPhone to Android now work. So this is another example. Google bringing AirDrop to Android is another example of Google pushing Apple to be better. So we have a quote here that I'll scroll down to real quick. So this is a statement that we got from Google about this. And it says, our goal is to provide an easy and secure file sharing experience for our users, regardless of who they are communicating with. Like with RCS and unknown tracker alerts, we always welcome collaboration opportunities to address interoperability issues between iOS and Android. So this is a very subtle, passive-aggressive way for Apple, for Google to dig at Apple and Apple's, walled garden. Google is basically throwing down the gauntlet and saying, Apple, this sucks. It sucks that these two phones can't communicate well together. It sucks that a person who owns an Android phone can't send a selfie like I just did to this iPhone without jumping through a million different hoops. And you should be better. So Google is just throwing down the gauntlet and saying, be better. And so Apple is in a tricky situation now, just like it was with RCS. If it decides it wants to shut this down, which from all I can tell, it very much could. Apple could just flip a switch, metaphorically, flip a switch and make it so that this doesn't work anymore. But then Apple would have to contend with the negative backlash that would receive, because iPhone users want this too. And that's something that Apple is always forgetting. And that's what it forgot with RCS messaging. It was like, it is so focused on itself and its users that it thinks that its users don't care about communicating with other Android users, because all the other users that they communicate with are iPhone users. And that's just not true. There are so many people. There are marriages where one person in the marriage uses an Android phone and the other one uses an iPhone. And those people want their phones to work better. And it's not just the Android person being like, I wish our phones worked better. It's the iPhone person as well. So Google is pushing Apple into a corner. So now Apple's going to have to decide, does it shut this down to protect its walled garden, or does it let this happen and give its users what they actually want? So that's something that Apple has to think about here. So we asked Google specifically, whether or not Google worked with Apple in any way, or even warned Apple that this is what it was going to do, and Google confirmed that it did not. So I have another quote here from Google right here. We accomplished this through our own implementation. Our implementation was thoroughly vetted by our own privacy and security teams. And we also engaged a third-party security firm to pen test the solutions. This is Google admitting that Apple is probably finding out about this situation right now. Google did this all behind the scenes without Apple's input or knowledge. So once again, Apple is in the corner. Google's put it in the corner just like it did with RCS. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts. Obviously, I just proved it works, but will it work tomorrow? Will it work the next day? What is Apple going to do to respond to this new movement is something to be considered. So as just to make sure it's clear, to get this to work right now, if you want to make it work, you can do it. You have to have a Pixel 10 phone though. The only way it works right now is on the Pixel 10 series, although it's a quick share setting. It's not a Pixel exclusive feature, but it is Pixel exclusive right now. So unfortunately, if you don't have a Pixel 10 phone, then you're not gonna be able to make this work, but there's no reason why Google couldn't roll this out to every single Android phone in the future. But for now, it only works on this. You have to make sure you're on the latest updates for everything. That includes the latest Play Store updates, the latest app updates, and your latest system updates. Everything has to be on the latest for it to work. And then once you've got everything, it's just a matter of doing what I just showed you and making sure your quick share settings are set to share with anyone and not just your contacts. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really cool for people to actually have this finally without jumping through a bunch of hoops, but Apple is Apple, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, stay tuned to AndroidAuthority.com. We'll have all sorts of content about this, instructions on how to do this for all your phones once it's available for more, and updates on if and when Apple decides to shut it down. So yeah, stay tuned for that at AndroidAuthority.com. See you guys later.